All right, shalom, yasharala, shabbat shalom to those of y'all who are observing Sabbath today. So today's gonna be part one of probably around a 5-part series that I'm gonna do. I was gonna try and do it all the different topics in one lesson, but just getting together precepts for this lesson, and I realized it'll probably be at least a 5 or more hour long live. So I decided to break it up into different parts. So the lesson is called Jacob's Trouble Coming Soon, How to Make It Through, Part 1, Control Your Emotions. Right, so the first one we're going to be talking about controlling your emotions and about moving in wisdom or moving according to the scriptures over moving according to your emotions, which is what most people do. Right, so before we get started, as always, got to say, call halal Yahweh ba'ashem hamashiach wa malak Yahweh Shai, which is all praises for all hail the Most High God in the name of his Son, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Right, so we're going to start in Isaiah chapter 33 and verse 6. And Drea, the brother Drea, Shabbat Shalom. The brother Ivan, Shabbat Shalom. Savage Trader, Shabbat Shalom. Hope y'all are all having a good one. Go ahead,
And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of Yahweh is his treasure.
So this is Isaiah 33 and 6, and it says that wisdom and knowledge are going to be the stability of your times, of the times that we're living in right now, the end times, coming into Jacob's trouble, which is going to be some of the worst times ever. Matter of fact, if you want to get that in Matthew 24 and 21. So wisdom and knowledge are going to be the stability of our times and strength of our salvation. If we don't have stable minds in these times to come, we are not going to have strength, mental, spiritual, emotional strength, and we're not going to get salvation. Plain and simple, right? As a matter of fact, I'm reading the next verse as well. Isaiah 33 and 7. Behold, their valiant ones shall cry without. The ambassadors of peace shall weep bitterly. So valiant men or powerful men, men of war, things like this, are going to be crying in that day. They're going to be weeping bitterly because they're not going to have the tools and the spirit necessary in order to make it through the things that are going to come. Sister Lonnie Love, Shabbat Shalom, sis. Shabbat Shalom. So go ahead.
This is Matthew 24 and 21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor ever shall be.
So what Christians call the tribulation period, or what we like to call Jacob's trouble, because it never says it's the tribulation, right? It just says there shall be great tribulation, worse than from the beginning of the world all the way to the end, nor ever shall be, it says, right? Go ahead.
And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened.
So we could see, or let me ask y'all that, who could see that the days are being shortened? Who else thinks that the time is speeding up?
I knew I wasn't tripping. Days be going by quick.
Right. I get paid every week, and it was crazy because I got paid Thursday, and I was like, damn, it feels like I just got paid like 2 days ago. It was crazy. Like, I literally thought, I was like, wait, oh yeah, it's Thursday. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I lose track of the days because of how fast they go by.
Calm. So it says, except those days be shortened, no flesh would be saved, but for the elect's sake, these days are being shortened. Right? That's why I talk to certain people that aren't really living out the truth, or maybe they've heard of it, or they just don't want to follow it. And I've heard some of them say things like, man, time's going by so slow. And I'm like, man, what are they talking about? Right? For the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. So the point though is, actually, let's get one more verse on Jacob's trouble. Jeremiah chapter 30 and verse 4. So we read in Isaiah 33 and 6, wisdom and knowledge are going to be the stability of our times, And you're either moving in wisdom and knowledge, or you're moving off of emotion, right? There's no way you could move off of both. There has to be a balance when it comes to emotion, because everybody's going to have certain reactions and emotions and feelings towards certain things, but you have to know how to keep those in balance and in check, to the point where you're like, okay, yes, this happened. Yes, I feel this way about it, or I'm having this type of emotion towards it, but the scriptures say this, so that's what I'm going to do. Right? But go ahead.
This is Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 4. And these are the words that Yahweh spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah.
Go ahead.
For thus saith Yahweh, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace.
So we have heard a voice of trembling, being scared, right? Of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Go ahead.
Ask ye now, and see whether a man doeth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness?
So he said, Jeremiah said, ask ye now and see whether a man doth travail with child. Do men have babies? Do men carry babies in the womb? No, right? Maybe now with these wicked surgeries and all that stuff, but the babies won't even last more than a couple of weeks or months, right?
Right.
So it says, ask ye now and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore or why do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, like a woman that's about to give birth, right? So when you see somebody scared and they got their hands right there on their hips and they're just standing with their mouths open in awe, like, oh man, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's how Jeremiah was seen in this vision of Jacob's trouble. It says, and all faces are turned into paleness. Now you get so scared, so shocked, so in awe that,
You look like you're seeing a ghost.
right? You look like a ghost because you're so white, right? Right? That's how Jeremiah was seeing people in his vision when he was seeing Jacob's trouble. Go ahead.
Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it.
So that day is great, that none is like it. Just like Yahweh Shai said in Matthew 24:21, there was going to be great tribulation, such as was not seen since the beginning of the world to this time, or ever shall be. There's no other time like Jacob's trouble, right? There's no other time like it. So knowing that, we should know that we have to get ourselves in order right now, especially when it comes to controlling your emotions. Because if you can't learn or train your spirit to control your emotions now, while things are still, I wouldn't say good, but while things are still steady, while you still have all the necessities or the chief things of life. Do you want to get that in Sirach 29:21? If you have all the chief necessities or chief things of life, as Solomon said, right now, and you still can't control your emotions or rule your spirit enough to follow the word, then how much worse off are you going to be when all hell breaks loose? Go ahead.
This is the wisdom of Sirach, chapter 29, verse 21. The chief thing for life is water and bread and clothing and a house to cover shame.
So if you have these things, you're blessed more than many more, let's just say millions and millions of people across the earth. Right? If you have water, bread, clothing, and a home, you have more again than many, many people across the earth. So if you're complaining to the Most High about your situation or certain things like that, if you're feeling angry or sad or depressed or something like that, and you have all of these things, then how much worse off are you going to be again when there's famine, when there's pestilences, when there's people dying left and right, when there's martial law, when it's looking like the Book of Eli, or what was that movie you were telling me about?
Mad Max.
Mad Max. When you watch these types of movies, try and put yourself in that position. and think like, okay, man, if I was in that position, how would I be handling the situation?
Amen.
What would I be doing? I wouldn't even be putting myself in that certain situation.
Be honest with yourself too.
Right? So let's go to so actually let me ask y'all something. What is one emotion you struggle with the most? First one to comment, we'll get into that first. BP619, Shalom, Shabbat Shalom if you're observing Sabbath today. What's one emotion that any of y'all may struggle with? One emotion y'all struggle. And you know what? I'm going to make a short video probably tomorrow on Sabbath. I'll probably just post it on my Instagram though. And just talk about the difference between emotions and feelings.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because there is a big difference between emotions and feelings. Right? The Most High has feelings. We were made in his image, so we have feelings. Right? But when it comes to emotions, we have to understand that a lot of times these are things that are carried with us before the truth. Right? So when it says to put off the old man daily or kill the old man daily, that's a huge part of doing that, is putting off all the old emotions that just come back out of habit. Right? Because it's like there's this dude that I work with, and he has PTSD from being overseas and being an army veteran and stuff, right? So those traumatic experiences, even though he's been back over here, he hasn't been overseas for years, he still carries that with him, and it leads to him lashing out in different types of emotions, right? So we have to understand that being the people of the curses, we've all been through different traumatic experiences. Maybe not the exact same ones, but a lot of us have been through the same ones. And those traumatic experiences impact our emotions both in the moment, but also over long term. Right? And that's something we really have to understand for men as well, obviously. But then imagine women being the weaker vessel, how much worse it is for them. Right? So whatever the source of that trauma is, it basically leaves like an imprint on you. Let's just put it that way. So you have to learn the source of that and learn how to get rid of that and overcome that through the scriptures and through the spirit.
I go first if you want to talk about emotions. From my own personal experience, I'm gonna say tunnel vision, for lack of better terms. And what I mean by that is, I grew up in an environment where it was a lot of gunshots, and I've been in personal like standoffs and stuff like that, and people getting shot, and I lost a lot of people. They died by the gun and stuff like that. So like in situations like that, when there would be shootings or we in standoffs and stuff like that, you know, I would tend to get tunnel vision and like not be able to hear nobody else. And just only, you know how you get that fight or flight sense, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like in that moment, I can't hear anything. It's more just like, okay, what are you gonna do? So like I feel like in Jacob's trouble, that's something that I had to think about. It's like whatever's going on in that moment, am I gonna be able to get past it? Like let's say if I got people that I gotta look out for or something, am I gonna be able to get past that tunnel vision?
And what do you think? Bless Santana, Shalom King. What do you think is the emotion behind that?
Fear.
Fear?
Yeah. I mean, just being real, because I mean, I put it like this. I mean, we all can sit here and say that, you know, oh, I ain't scared to die. But I mean, you gotta think about it. In a moment like that, what's the only thing that triggers that type of emotion? You know what I'm saying? Is fear. You know, and fear makes you do a lot of things, and fear doesn't necessarily make you a scaredy cat, don't make you do stupid shit, but fear makes you do a lot of stuff the same way faith makes you do a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's just like when it said Noah moved in fear. You feel me? So it's like I know if I don't use this fear to act now and get out the way, it could be a bad repercussion for me. So I feel like it just comes. I feel like it comes from fear. It might come from something else, but I can't think of it.
Well, let's go to 2 Timothy 1:7. 2 Timothy 1:7. So fear is definitely a huge one, whether it be fear of anything besides the Most High, right? That's the only thing we should truly fear. But I can understand in that sense, because back when I was in the world too, I mean, I could say the same thing as to where I wasn't really scared of dying and stuff like that. But there's certain situations you get put in where it really tests that out. You know what I mean?
And you feel your heart start like pound, like everything slows down, and all you can hear is your heartbeat because you're like, damn, it's either do or die right now. You know what I'm saying? It's 2 Timothy 1:7. For Yahweh hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind.
So the Most High doesn't give us a spirit of fear. He does give us the spirit to fear him, because like it says in Ecclesiastes 12:13, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. We're supposed to do what? Fear the Most High and keep his commandments. Right? But the fear of anything else is not of Yahweh. Right? And if you keep reading down on that, on verse 8, it says not to be ashamed of the testimony of our Adonai, right? So some people are afraid to even speak the word. They're afraid of living out the word because of what other people are going to say, right? But in reality, if you're doing that, it's like Yahushua said, if there's someone ashamed of him, then he's going to be ashamed of you to the Father, right? So that's definitely one emotion that you have to overcome, is being in fear of what you believe in. If you know something's right for your soul, and you know somebody's going to say something negative about it, it shouldn't matter to you, right? That emotion has to get blocked out, or like me and the brother Jomar have talked about many times, you have to pluck that out. That's like a weed in your mind, and that has to get plucked out. So go ahead and read it one more time.
For Yahweh hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind.
So the Most High, when you're moving in the spirit of the Most High, he gives you a spirit of power. It does take power to overcome your emotions, right? It takes a lot of power to overcome your emotions. Acceptance is one of mine, which I am overcoming as I continue to live set apart. So I wouldn't say acceptance is really an emotion, but I could definitely see how, you have to accept the things that the Most High is dishing out towards you when it comes to this truth. Because if you're not in the right spirit to know how he answers, we were just talking about that earlier, right? To know how he answers you, because of course, if his ways are higher than our ways, right? If you want to get Psalm 65:5 real quick. So if his ways are higher than our ways, then we have to understand that his answer is going to be higher than our answer as well, right? His answer to our prayers or our supplications, right? When we're asking for him to help out with something, and he helps you, but it's not the way that you imagined it, right? That's something that can be hard to accept. When he sets you apart from somebody or from something, or from some situation, or some people that you never thought you're going to have to be away from, a lot of emotions are going to come in there as well. And you have to learn how to accept it through the spirit, because anything that he's doing for you, if you do believe that you have the opportunity or the chance to make it to the kingdom, then all things work together for good to those who are called according to his purpose. Right? You have to learn how to accept that, which can be very hard for some people. Go ahead.
This is Psalms chapter 65, verse 5. By terrible things and righteousness will thou answer us, O Yahweh of our salvation.
So pause right there. So by terrible things and righteousness, sometimes he's going to have to answer us. So you may see it as a terrible thing when he answers your prayer a certain way, but hey, you ask for him to answer your prayer. And that's why me and the brother have been talking about, you got to be real specific with your prayers sometimes.
Very specific.
Because you can ask for something and then he makes something happen, and then you're like, well, man, that's not how I wanted it to happen, but he still answered your prayer. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be very weary or very vigilant of how you're praying, how you're asking for certain things. And that's like when I pray for for mercy or for correction or things like that. And I'll always make sure to say, correct me in your mercy and not in your anger, lest I come to nothing.
Yeah, correct me in your love and kindness, not in your anger.
Because if you ask him to correct you, man, you may not know what you're asking for, right? And that's why there's multiple scriptures that say that you are not supposed to be as one that tempts Yahweh. Because sometimes that's what we do in our prayers and we don't even realize it.
Yep.
Right? Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai Barakatah.
I got a precept for that too.
Khan.
About not understanding his counsel. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 9, verse 13 says, "For what man is he that can know the counsel of Yahweh, or who can think what the will of the Lord is?"
Yep. So we can't think perfectly upon what his will is. Now, his will is for us to follow his word, right? But we don't know every single step that we're going to take. We don't know how our lives are going to be from one day to the next. We don't know if the people that were around today are going to be around tomorrow. We don't even know if we always pray for it, right? But we don't even know if we're still going to be in the truth tomorrow. The most I could just put your light out tomorrow, which is why it's so important to learn. And this is something I've been telling many people over the past like week, really, that when the Most High shows you what you need to do in order to better yourself, or if he speaks through somebody, because a lot of times I've said this as well to brothers and even to sisters before, like, man, I'm all praise to the Most High that he put the spirit on you to even say that right now, because that goes perfectly along with this situation, or that's a perfect precept for this or that, right? So if the Most High does that for you, then you need to put it into action, because you don't know what his will is for you. And what if his will, go ahead and read it one more time.
It says, "For what man is he that can know the counsel of Yahweh, or who can think what the will of the Father is?"
We can't think what the will of the Father is. Maybe the will of the Father, and that's like I was telling that older sister at the market days. I asked this woman that was listening to us preach for a while, and I was like, "Do you think you came here like out of a coincidence?" And she was like, "Oh no, there's no coincidences with God." Right? So I was like, "Yeah, that's correct." So he put you here to hear the word. And she was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, well, you have to understand though that if the Most High sends somebody to correct you on any issue, whether it be controlling your emotions, whether it be like the sister said, acceptance, like the brother said, fear. I see a couple more down here: anger, long suffering, pride that leads to anger, right? If somebody corrects you on that issue, what if the Most High's will was for them to correct you, to give you an opportunity to repent, but then you don't do it? So then he's just like, "All right, your light's put out." Right? Or, "All right, now you're going to have to go through all this stuff right here because I gave you the counsel from my word and you didn't want to take heed to it. You didn't want to listen to me.
Yep.
You wanted to be stiff-necked and hard-headed. And therefore, guess what? Now you got to go through this, or now you're giving up to a reprobate mind." You never know when that time can happen, right? And that's why we have to stay in the fear of the Most High at all times. You want to go ahead and read this precept?
Psalms 56:11. "In Yahweh have I put my trust. I will not be afraid what man can do unto me."
That's a beautiful precept. I hope you're doing well. When you put your trust in the Most High, you're not gonna be afraid of what anybody can do to you, right? That's why there was a brother a while back, not too long ago, maybe a month or a few months back, and he asked me about the whole Sakari thing, how they carry guns and got bulletproof vests at camp and all this stuff, right? And the last time that me and this brother were going out and preaching and stuff, and I was kind of telling him, like, it's crazy that you would feel the need to be afraid of what man can do to you, like this verse says.
Yep.
When you're sincerely, if not saying that they are or aren't, right? Because some people are just blind, sincere followers. Some people are agents, some people are whatever, right?
Yeah.
But put it this way, the spirit that I'm in, like when we go out there, is this: if we're sincerely trying to fish some of the lost sheep of the house of Israel, right? And we die in the process, I mean, that would be, to me, that would probably be the best way to go out. Don't you think?
Yeah, I would say that because I mean, shoot, and you died doing the work of the Most High. That's a guaranteed
Ex-
spot
Most
if
high
you were
willing, that would
sincere.
be, yeah, yeah, right. If you're in the right spirit and you're doing it, you're working in the fruits of the spirit, you're being humble, you're teaching the truth, you're telling people to repent
Con.
in sincerity, in humility,
Most High willing,
like,
that's a guarantee.
right. So to me, that just shows that you're not really trusting in the Most High, especially in that sense where you're going out to do His work. If it's His will for you to, for your life to be taken, right? Doing His work, what better way to do it?
So be it.
I would rather go out like that than in my sleep.
Nah, for real.
To be honest, right?
No, at least I know why I died.
Con. So Ivan, anger and long suffering. So I would say anger, probably the two biggest ones that I see personally when I deal with like doing counseling and stuff like that, is anger and either sadness or so-called depression, right? Which in reality is just the spirit, right? So go ahead and go to Proverbs 16 and 32. 16 and 32. And Tawada Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai Barakatah. So anger and long suffering.
This is Proverbs chapter 16, verse 32. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh the city.
So when you're slow to anger, you're better than the mighty. So we're talking about this the other day. In the world, people see those that have money as mighty, right? As powerful. People see certain brothers of Israel as mighty when they they go out and have tens or hundreds of followers or men under them, things of that nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this says, he that's slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that rules his spirit is more mighty than them who take a city, right? So I was asking my family the other day, how many cities do you think have been taken or conquered throughout history? They're like, man, too many to even count.
Way too many.
Right? Too many to even think of or even count or be able to count. So then I was asking, and I'll ask y'all this, right? How many people do you know personally that can rule their spirit well? Somebody give me an answer. How many people do you know that can rule their spirit well, meaning they can control their emotions, they can move when other people are getting emotional, they can speak wisdom, or they can move off of wisdom, etc. Right? Because man, that's something that if you can do, it says you're better than the mighty.
That's like finding a ruby in today's time.
Right? That's like finding a piece of platinum in the ground just buried.
Or finding some overgold.
Right, some flawless gold. Something that is very, very rare in today's society. You want to read it one more time?
He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh the city.
So he that is slow to anger is better than the mighty. He that rules his spirit than he that taketh the city. So you'll see, or without even getting into naming names and stuff like that, you'll see brothers or men get so mad when they're preaching that they'll either start fighting or want to fight, right? Or they'll just get into a screaming argument or battle, just going back and forth with people, right? Or they literally put their hands on people, right? This shows that they are not truly mighty and they haven't learned how to rule their spirit yet, right? The sister said one.
Yeah,
one.
real.
You talking about yourself or somebody else? You talking about yourself?
I mean, it counts.
Right. Let's go to Proverbs 25 and 28. And see the thing, actually go to Galatians 5:16 first. Galatians 5:16. See the thing about it is, right, it's like the scriptures say that the flesh and the spirit are always battling against each other, right? So the flesh, that's more your emotions. That's representing your emotions when it comes to this topic, right? Of course, it can represent lust of the flesh and things of this nature, but your emotions are purely flesh. When you're in the spirit, it's moving off of wisdom, because like I've said many times, the Bible, which is the word, and the Holy Spirit, they coincide simultaneously, meaning if you're moving in the spirit, you're moving according to the Bible. So you can't say, oh yeah, I'm moving in the Holy Spirit, but then you're over here living contrary to the Bible. Right? So go ahead.
This is Galatians chapter 5, verse 16. This I say then, walk in the spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh.
So walking in the spirit and walking in wisdom, you're not going to fulfill the lust of the flesh. And let me tell you, I know, because me and this brother talked about it many times before, right? Before I was in the truth, and he said the same thing, but I'll just tell y'all mine real quick personally. And I've said it before, but before I was in the truth, I could not control my anger whatsoever. If anybody was to look at well, we weren't married at that time, right? But now my current rib, I would already be like, well, what are you looking at? Right? Or you got a staring problem? Or what's up, bro? You know what I mean? Just because I didn't know how to rule my spirit. And she would get so embarrassed, like, oh my gosh, you're so embarrassing. You know what I mean? But that's because I couldn't rule my spirit. I was moving in the flesh. And like it says, when you're moving in the spirit, you're not going to fulfill the lust of the flesh. One of my lusts, you could say, of the flesh was I liked to fight. Like I just liked getting into fights. For whatever reason, that violent spirit was on me. Right? And all praise to the Most High. It's like I was the brother Daniela, I was talking to him briefly about it, I think 2 days ago, that he was saying, the Most High took that spirit away from you, and all praises to him for that. And it's true, because man, I told him, if it wasn't for the Most High, bro, there's no way I would have got away from fighting. Yeah. Whether it be like professionally or in the street fighting, all of that. I literally would lust to do that.
It can become an addiction for sure.
For sure, and it's an escape, really, is what it is.
Yeah, it's just like when I was smoking weed somewhere.
It's an escape mechanism. I've said before, I studied a little bit of psychology before, and that's really good when it comes to emotions and feelings, separating the two. Which, like I said, I'll make another video just going into that briefly. But when it comes to like escape mechanisms, whether it be weed, whether it be alcohol, whether it be getting a bunch of women, or whether it even be your emotions, right? That's an escape mechanism as well, because when you're feeling sad, right? Oh, I'm just so sad all the time. And you're just in a depressive state or an idle or lazy state. You don't have to deal with reality, because you're just over here being sad and being lazy and sleeping all day and not really doing anything, right? You're idle. And you let that emotion, we'll say emotion, right? But in reality, that's a spirit, just take you over, right? So when you're walking in the spirit, you're not going to fulfill that fleshly desire to just give into that spirit or that emotion. So go ahead, 17.
For the flesh lusteth against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary the one to the other, so that ye cannot do the things that ye would.
So the flesh and the spirit are contrary to each other. They're fighting against each other, right? And that's why sometimes you're like, man, I just really want to stay in the spirit, and I just really want to be diligent in the scriptures, and I want to keep my fire burning and all of these things. But then some type of emotion just takes you over, some spirit takes you over, and that's it. Yep. Everything, all those things you were just saying, or you've been thinking or telling yourself you were going to do, they're out the window. And that's why it says, so that ye cannot do the things that ye would. Go ahead and read it one more time.
For the flesh lusteth against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary the one to the other, so that ye cannot do the things that ye would.
So Satan and all these evil spirits know that if they could just get you angry, if they could just get you sad or depressed or in the spirit of pride, which pride is the beginning of all sin, right? They know that you're going to be moving in the flesh and not in the spirit, and you're not going to be able to do the things that you would do if you were moving in the spirit, right? Which is why another reason why many times controlling your emotions means controlling, of course, your mind, right? But before you learn how to control your mind, controlling your environment, right? Controlling the people that you're around, controlling or knowing what types of people or environments get you out of the spirit and in the flesh, get you in your emotion and out of wisdom, right? So go ahead and go to Ephesians 4. And I'm gonna get my charger real quick, guys. Ephesians 4:26.
Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26 and 27. It says, Be ye angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath, neither give place to the devil.
So it says, don't be angry and sin, because many times this is what happens. You get angry, you give into your emotion of anger, and then it leads you to sin. Whether it leads you to tail bear, or it leads you to holding a grudge or hatred towards somebody, or it leads you to, shoot, I don't know, hurt somebody or steal from somebody, or
All type of stuff.
right, or murder somebody physically or spiritually. Because remember, it says when you hate your brother in your heart, you're a murderer, right? And no eternal life abides in a murder. So it says, be ye angry and sin not, and don't let the sun go down upon your wrath. And it's funny because people in my family would say that, like, never go to sleep angry, right? Never go to sleep angry, mijo. Like,
a lot of time.
They didn't know it was in the scriptures, but they would say it, right? And then you want to read 27 one more time?
Neither give place to the devil.
Because when you're angry, you're giving a place to an evil spirit, to a devil, to a deceiver, to just come in right on into you, right? And this is what happens with many people in the world. This is what happens with many people that claim to be in the truth, even so-called teachers or leaders amongst Israel. You want to get Proverbs 25 and 28 now. Right, so it says, I'm gonna read it one more time. Be ye angry and sin not, let not the sun go down upon your wrath, neither give place to the devil. And that's what you do when you're moving in the spirit of anger. You're giving place to an evil spirit to just come into you, a wrathful or evil, angry spirit. Go ahead.
Proverbs chapter 25, verse 28. He that hath no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls.
So he that hath no rule over his own spirit, you don't know how to control yourself, emotionally especially. You're like a city without any walls. A city back then, any king, any city that a king lived in had walls around it, because he wanted to protect himself and everything that he had, right? So if you didn't have walls back then, they were open to a siege, which is where someone can just come and take the city, right? Which that's like we read earlier, that Salakia, let me get it real quick. Proverbs 16:32. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city. Many cities were taken back in the days, and a lot of times it was because they didn't have no walls up. They didn't have their defenses up, right? It's the same thing when you don't rule your spirit. You're not having your guard or your defense up. So any evil spirit can just come into you and take control of you. You don't control your emotions. So, okay, a spirit sees that and they're like, okay, I can control him. All I got to do is play with their emotions a little bit. Oh, okay, she's super emotional when this type of stuff happens. Okay, all I got to do is make this type of stuff happen and I can control her.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They don't have no walls up. And then that evil spirit can come in. Right? And what happens is when that happens, you can tell when a certain type of spirit can get on somebody because they're no longer moving in wisdom and understanding. If you want to go to Sirach 5 and 10, you can tell when somebody has a spirit on them, when somebody knows scripture, right? Because I've come across many brothers and sisters like this where I know they know scripture on the situation they're going through. Like I know I've gone over it with them, or they've spoken it before and I've heard them speak of it, or we've talked about it before, studied it before, etc. And they're not moving according to those scriptures. So then you know, like, damn, they're not moving in understanding no more. Why is that? Because they have that control is gone from them, right? Go ahead.
The Wisdom of Sirach, chapter 5, verse 10. Be steadfast in thy understanding, and let thy word be the same.
So be steadfast in understanding. This is what we have to do. We have to be fast to just move in understanding. Yeah, things are gonna happen that you're not gonna like in life. Of course, that's a given, right? People are gonna do things, people are gonna say things, etc., and you're not gonna like it. But no matter what, you have to be steadfast in understanding, in the understanding that the Most High has given you. If you know precepts on dealing with the situation you're going through and you know how you're supposed to go through it, or how you're supposed to navigate and move through the situation according to the word, then that's what you have to do. You have to be steadfast in your understanding and let thy word be the same. The things that you say and obviously the things that you do have to be according to that understanding that you have. Because what good is it to have understanding of how to move according to the word, but you're not even doing it?
Mm-hmm.
What good is it to be like death and life are in the power of the tongue, but then you're over here speaking death to yourself all the time? Well, I can't do this and I can't do that, and right? There's no point in knowing the scriptures and having the understanding if your words and your actions aren't going to align with it, right? Go ahead and keep going.
Be swift to hear, and let thy life be sincere, and with patience give answer.
So be swift to hear, and especially when you start to feel emotional, right? The best thing you can do when your emotions are flowing through you is to stop and just don't say nothing yet.
Mm-hmm.
Never speak when you're emotional.
Never ends well.
Never ends well, right? So it says, be swift to hear and let thy life be sincere. Many people know of the truth, but they're not sincere in the truth because they're not willing to strive to apply the truth in every situation. They'll want to apply the truth when it's easy. Oh yeah, Sabbath, let me keep Sabbath. Yeah, that's easy. But then it comes down to something they got to do that goes against their emotions. That's a lot harder.
Mm-hmm.
When it's like, no, well, you don't understand. It's because this and that and blah blah blah, and they're not sincere because they're letting those emotions take them over, right? And that's why it said in Galatians 5 and 17 that the spirit and the flesh are contrary one to the other. So you can't do the things that you would, right? When you're sincere in the truth, or you want to be sincere in the truth, you want to do the things that you know the Bible says to do, which is acting off wisdom, not being emotional, right? Not getting angry quickly, not giving into sadness and depression quickly. But in order to do that, it takes a lot of self-will, let's put it this way, self-willpower, but through the spirit of the Most High.
Exactly.
Right? Because it is you willing. That's why it literally says in Galatians, you cannot do the things that you would. Do the things that your own will wants to do, because you have to do it through the spirit. And again, the word and the spirit coincide simultaneously. So you can't move in the spirit if you're not moving according to the word. So go ahead and keep going.
If thou hast understanding, answer thy neighbor. If not, lay thy hand upon thy mouth.
This is something else that we have to understand. When it comes to moving in wisdom over emotions, your emotions tell you that you just want to answer like this, right? You just want to give an answer, especially when you're moving off emotion. Oh, they said that, I'm going to say this, right? But if you don't have good understanding, if you can't back it up with scriptures, then you should really lay your hand upon your mouth. And it was like I was telling my daughters the other day, sometimes you literally got to do that, especially for women, because they can be real emotional. Sometimes you literally got to get your hand, put it on top of your mouth, and just hold your mouth closed. Physically hold your mouth closed. That's how you're going to control your emotions. Right? You're about to say something that you cannot take back, right? So you got to physically put your hand over your mouth, because if you don't, you're going to bring a whole lot of problems and shame towards yourself. Go ahead.
Honor and shame is in talk, and the tongue of man is his fall.
Come. You want to get chapter 20, verse 6. So it says, honor and shame is in talk. Somebody could be going through something, and you could give them the perfect precepts, and they're just like, oh man, that was a wise thing or an honorable thing to say, right? Or somebody could tell you something, and you say something completely out of emotion, and it just brings shame to you. People see you as shameful. Even you get ashamed because you're like, damn, I shouldn't have said that.
Yep.
that ever happened to y'all? You say something, and immediately the next thought in your head is like, damn, I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, it's better to slip on the pavement than to slip with your tongue.
We'll get that one after these verse. Also, like it says, and the tongue of man is his fall. For many people, the tongue or the things that are said after their emotions come, right? Because your emotions are inward, and then you can lash out outwardly, either with action or with talk. But we know most people are all talk.
Yep.
So most people is going to be with talk.
Yep.
Right? And the tongue of man is his fall.
What's that, Salaki? What's that worldly saying they say? You gonna write a check you can't cash?
Yeah, you know, write a check your ass can't cash.
Yep.
Yep, that's happened a lot of shit. That's happened to me one time in high school. That's happened, and I've been on both ends of that. Hey. I've been on both ends of that, right? But go ahead, 20 and 6.
Wisdom of Sirach, chapter 20, verse 6. Some man holdeth his tongue because he hath not to answer, and some keepeth silence knowing his time.
So if you can learn how to do this when you're feeling emotional, right? And I've told many people that have been around me that it's better to hold your tongue when you're emotional, because again, you can say something that can never be taken back, right? And there's a saying, I forgot who said it, but it was when I was studying psychology that came up, or that I first heard it, I believe, where they said that when you say something, people are more likely to forget what you said than how you made them feel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you might remember, oh, he said something like this, but man, when he said that, I just felt like this. Right? Again, it's just emotion. You're so put it this way, right? Two wrongs don't make a right.
Yep.
So you're emotional. You say something that you shouldn't have said because you can't control or rule your spirit. And you say something to somebody that you shouldn't say, and now you got them acting all emotional, right? And now you got them out the spirit. And then sometimes it just is dead. It's deaded there. Sometimes now it's going back and forth, just too emotional. And then somebody else might get in it. Oh yeah, well you said this, and then it just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. Right? So that's why it's better to not, like you said, not to slip upon the pavement, which we'll get that in just a second. So we have to know when to hold our tongue and when to keep silence, to know when is the right time to speak. Go ahead and read it one more time.
Some man holdeth his tongue because he hath not to answer, and some keepeth silence knowing his time.
So like I've said many times, like I told this brother before months ago, When you're emotional, you don't want to say nothing. Even if you gotta sleep on it. Oh, you know what? This was said, man. I know I'm in my emotions right now. You know what? I'm gonna sleep on it. In the morning, I'll have a clearer head, and then I'll see what I'm gonna do or what I'm gonna say about it. Right? That's always a better. It's always better to keep silence and know when once these emotions pass, I can move off of wisdom a lot better. Go ahead.
A wise man will hold his tongue till he see opportunity, but a babbler and a fool will regard no time.
A fool, someone who's not moving according to the law, statutes, commandments, and precepts of Yahweh, is going to be a babbler. They're just going to say whatever comes to mind, and they're emotional, and they just say this and that. But a wise person is going to hold his tongue until he sees the right opportunity to speak.
I got a friend like that too. That just like says everything that comes to his mind. I forgot what verse even says that. Sorry, but it says that a fool answereth all his mind. But I literally got a worldly friend.
We all got a friend like
man,
that.
whatever come to his mind, you won't even be able to get a full sentence out of yourself before he interrupt and be like, "Oh my bad," and it just sound foolish.
Like, we all know somebody like that. Let's put it that way, right?
That's gonna get him in Jacob's trouble. I say that.
For sure. Go ahead and go to verse 18.
Verse 18. To slip upon a pavement is better. Salaki. To slip upon a pavement is better than to slip with the tongue. So the fall of the wicked shall come speedily.
So let's see what the brother was quoting earlier. To slip on the pavement is better than to slip with your tongue. Because like I was telling my daughters a couple of days ago as well, if you fall down and you scrape your knee, all right, it's gonna heal in a day or two, right?
Yep.
But you could get in your emotions, and let's say you're a brother or let's say you're a sister, and some you got a dude that's breaking down scriptures to you, and he's trying to do right by you, etc. And you get in your emotions and you say one wrong thing, and that's it. That's the end of the whole relationship. It's not gonna heal itself like if you fall on the pavement and scrape your knee, right? Or let's say you're at work and you're mad, you're in your emotions because I don't know, something happened in the morning, and then you get to work and then you say something you're not supposed to the boss, and guess what? Now you have no job.
Termination.
Right? It's better to slip on the pavement, scrape your knee, than for something like that to happen, and it's gonna affect you for the rest of your life. Right? So go ahead and get Proverbs 18. Or you know what? I'll get that. If you want to go to Sirach 27 and 30. So this is Proverbs 18 and 21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Right? Death and life are in the power of the tongue. You could say the wrong thing. You could blaspheme the Holy Spirit, right? And now you have no chance, according to the scriptures, right?
Unforgivable.
The only sin that won't be forgiven unto men. So you could say the wrong thing to somebody, and man, we all have no examples of that. But like, for example, my uncle, when I was like 9 or 10, he said the wrong thing to somebody who was in the cartel. He took off, came back, shot him like 8 to 10 times, and that was it. That was the end of his life. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. But this can also be towards when it comes to emotions, right? It's like a sister that I knew not too long ago. She said the wrong thing to her baby daddy, and she spoke death into that relationship. He was like, you know what, that's it. Cut her off. Wasn't calling her, blocked her on all social media, all that stuff. Right? So moving in wisdom as opposed to emotions can stop that from happening. And like the brother said, in Jacob's trouble, if people are killing each other right now over nothing, imagine how much worse it's going to be in Jacob's trouble.
The slightest, like, it's probably going to be like how it was when I had anger problems. Like, you can say the slightest thing that just ticked me off, I'm going to come after your ass. That's how it's going to be. You can just look at somebody the wrong way in Jacob's trouble, and they probably going to get you.
Yeah. What'd you say about my daddy's watch?
Nothing. I'm going to keep walking. I don't want no problems.
Go ahead, Sirach 27 and 30.
This is Sirach 27, verse 30. Malice and wrath, even these are abominations, and the sinful man shall have them both.
Malice and wrath, which again, going back to what the brother had said about anger, right? And like I said, I'm not trying to hide it whatsoever. That was my thing too, anger. Just being mad all the time.
Mine too.
Any little thing, right, would get me emotional. And when you really think about it, that's being feminine.
It is.
Being so emotional all the time, allowing people to manipulate your emotions to the point where you want to, you know what I mean?
My people used to tell me that too when I had bad anger problems. They would tell me that's a feminine trait, and I would get even more pissed off. I'd be like, don't tell me that. I'm not no female. Like, you know what I'm saying? But even then, I just had no rule of my own spirit. I was very, very fast to anger and no rule of my own spirit.
Calm. And that is an abomination to the Most High, right? And it says the sinful man is going to be like that. The sinful man is going to have malice and wrath. Malice meaning you have such emotion or anger towards somebody that you want something bad to happen to them, or you want to do something bad to them, right? You have to let that wrath, that anger out. And that's like what's his name in Asmodeus, the evil spirit that was killing all the dudes, right?
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of spirits that are violent like that, right? Or Jezebel as well, how she was putting to death the prophets.
Yeah.
A lot of these spirits they really get off on violence, right? So go ahead and jump to 28 and starting on 10.
Sirach chapter 28, verse 10. As the matter of the fire is, so it burneth. And as a man's strength is, so is his wrath. And according to his riches, his anger riseth. And the stronger they are which contend, the more they will be inflamed.
So as the matter of fire is, so it burneth. Talking about wrath, talking about anger, right? Your anger is going to burn like a fire. As long as there's something to burn, a fire is going to keep burning. Right? It's not just going to stop. Okay, that was enough. Keep going.
A hasty contention kindleth a fire, and a hasty fighting sheddeth blood.
So when you're in your emotions, you are very hasty to be contentious, right? And from that hasty contention and being emotional like that is going to kindle a fire. A little tiny bit of kindle, a little tiny bit of hay or dry grass or whatever the case may be is going to kindle a fire. And that can lead to what? Shedding blood. Whether it be spiritually or whether it be physically getting into a fight. But spiritually is even more important because you get in your emotions and then you're starting a contention, start fighting, and then you spiritually spill someone's blood because of you being emotional again. Now you're getting them out of the spirit.
Yep.
And now you have blood on your hands as well. Just like you get in a fight, I hit somebody and I break their nose and I got their blood on my hands.
That's real.
Right? But then also spiritually, if I get all emotional and I'm like, man, you little bitch and you blah, blah, blah. And man, you're a feminine, like whatever the case may be, right? And then man, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Who do you think you are?
Yeah.
There's this brother, Nabala, that was talking about that yesterday or a couple of days ago. And he was just saying, like, you could see how prideful some of these so-called leaders are when they're like, who do you think you are talking to me like that? Do you know who I am?
I'm above you.
Right? You know how long I've been teaching it. It just gets into a whole prideful, emotional.
Man, that's that haughty spirit, man. That's that haughty spirit.
That high-minded, haughty spirit. But put it this way. You'll just like you'd have blood on your hands if you're fighting another man, you have his blood on your hands. When you get emotional and you drag them into a contention or into a war of words, so to speak, you're going to have blood on your hands as well. So go ahead, keep going.
This is a really, really powerful verse right here. If thou blow the spark, it shall burn. If thou spit upon it, it shall be quenched. And both these come out of thy mouth.
The what a little member the mouth is, just like it says in James, I believe it's the first chapter, but it says like the wheel of a boat. It's so small, but it steers the whole vessel. And it's the same thing with your mouth. It's such a small member, right? But it controls the whole body. And like it says here, if thou blow the spark, it shall burn. If someone comes and starts a contention with you, right? And you blow upon it, how do you blow? Every time I'm speaking right now, I'm blowing out air, right? I get into that. I get in my emotions, right? And I go back and I start going back and forth with you. I'm blowing upon that fire. It's going to keep burning. And if any of y'all know anything about a fire, it needs oxygen to keep burning.
Exactly.
Right? If you pour some water on it, it's turning off. You throw a blanket over it, if it's bigger than the fire, it's going to turn it off. There's no oxygen. So it says, if thou blow the spark, because that's what a lot of times that's what people are trying to do. Whether they be so-called in the truth or whether they're just some worldly person not trying to follow the word. Many times they're just evil spirits are trying to use that vessel, that person, whether it be your so-called friend, cousin, aunt, uncle, mom, right?
Man.
They're trying to get you to blow upon that spark. They want you to keep that fire burning. Like they say, misery loves company, right? But then it says, go ahead and read it one more time.
If thou blow the spark, it shall burn. If thou spit upon it, it shall be quenched. And both these come out of thy mouth.
So you have the opportunity from your mouth, again, like it says, like it said in Proverbs 18:21, death and life are in the power of the tongue. When someone tries to kindle a fire of emotional argument with you, through your mouth, you can either bring death or life to that. Right? You could blow on it, you go back and forth, and it's going to keep burning, or you could spit on it and just put that fire out, and they both come out of your mouth. So spitting on it is the easiest thing. And I was just telling, I believe, yesterday or the day before, I was telling my family, right, that that's one of the most powerful things you can do. When someone's trying to get a rise out of you emotionally, just don't say anything. Just that's the best answer sometimes.
And that takes strength in itself.
That takes way more strength than just speaking emotionally.
Yep.
Right? Go ahead.
Curse the whisperer and double tongue.
So like it jumped down to 17.
Come. The stroke of the whip maketh marks in the flesh, but the stroke of the tongue breaketh the bones.
Sticks and stones may break my bones.
The first thing I thought about when I first ever read this verse, I was like, they lied.
Yeah. Wisdom of the world is foolishness with the Most High. So in the world, they say, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's completely backwards, right?
Exactly.
Sticks and stones, yeah, they can break your bones.
But what's the odds?
Right? What are the odds of a stick breaking your bones? Right? What hurts far more is somebody hurting you with words. And that's why when you speak the Bible to somebody, they get cut to the spirit.
Cold cuts are never cold.
So go ahead and read it one more time.
The stroke of the whip maketh marks in the flesh, but the stroke of the tongue breaketh the bones.
The stroke of the tongue, the things that you say is what's going to really hurt people more than anything. Right? If you, let's say you I don't know, you accidentally step on someone's foot and you, I don't know, on a let's just use a sister for an example. You step on her pinky toe on accident. Yeah. It's gonna hurt, right? Mm-hmm. What if you tell her, damn, you look ugly, you need to put some makeup on? Which one's gonna hurt more?
The fact you told her she was ugly and you put some makeup on. I ain't even trying to laugh. But it's real, true, right? That's just so true.
It's true.
She's gonna be so hurt.
So it's gonna bring emotions to them as well.
Yeah.
Just the words that you say is gonna put them in an emotional state. You could, what if a sister was like, you like my new dress, and man, you look fat in that dress.
Yeah, damn.
That's gonna feel like it breaks her bones.
If the Most High's words have power, there's an ours too.
Go ahead and keep going.
Many have fallen by the edge of the sword, but not so many as have fallen by the tongue.
Many people have been put to death with the sword. Man, just think about, like, I would say World War I, World War II, all of these, but even just thinking biblically, how when David and Saul came in, and the people were like, "Oh, look, there's Saul that killed his thousands, and there's David who killed his tens of thousands," right? That's just two men. Imagine how many people have been killed with the sword, a literal sword or a modern day sword, guns, bombs, etc. But it says not so many as have fallen by the tongue. And remember, the tongue starts really moving when you're emotional. When you're drunk or you're emotional. And that alcohol bring out the emotions a lot of times too.
Man, I used to say that all the time. I used to be like, I feel like when people was drunk, like sloppy drunk, strong drink and stuff like that, back in the world, you know what I'm saying? I feel like that brings out the real you if you start saying shit that you wouldn't have never said.
It's like no filter on your emotions or your mouth.
No filter.
Right? Go ahead and keep going.
Well is he that is defended from it, and hath not passed through the venom thereof, who hath not drawn the yoke thereof, nor hath been bound in her bands.
So moving always through emotion and through your tongue and saying things, that's like a yoke. It's like bands. It's like chains. Right? It says, well is he that is defended from it. Keep going.
For the yoke thereof is a yoke of iron, and the bands thereof are bands of brass.
It's a strong thing to break. Right? Go ahead.
The death thereof is an evil death. The grave were better than it.
The grave, so it says the death thereof is an evil death. The grave were better than it. It's better if you just die than to be living off of being wicked with your mouth because of your emotions.
Yep.
Go ahead.
It shall not have rule over them that fear Yahweh.
So your tongue and your emotions are not going to have rule over you if you truly fear the Most High. Go ahead.
Neither shall they be burnt with the flame thereof.
And you're not going to get burnt by that. One more verse.
Such as forsake Yahweh shall fall into it, and it shall burn in them and not be quenched. It shall be sent upon them as a lion and devour them as a leopard.
So when you forsake the Most High, you're going to fall into that. You're going to fall into anger. You're going to fall into a tongue that is going to get you in trouble. You're going to fall into your emotions, and it's not going to be quenched, right? It's going to be sent upon you as a lion. And like it says in Peter, the devil is seeking about who he may devour, just like a lion, spiritually.
Exactly.
Right? You want to get now let's go to James chapter 1 real quick. James chapter 1 and verse 19. James 1, 19 and 20 actually.
This is James chapter 1, verse 19 through 20. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. For the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of Yahweh.
So a huge problem when you get emotional, right? When someone gets emotional, let me ask you, Rock. When someone gets emotional, right, and you're trying to help them out, what are you supposed to do?
You're supposed to first and foremost keep them calm, or try to calm them down before you even try to continue, because they're not gonna listen.
Okay, and what are you gonna try to give them?
I'm gonna try to give them the word, or try to give them some type of wisdom.
You're gonna try to speak wisdom, right?
Yeah.
So many times what happens is when people are emotional, they do not want to listen to this verse 19, where it says, let every man be swift to hear.
Yep.
They don't want to be swift or fast to hear. They want to do the opposite. They want to be swift to speak. They want to be swift to just let all their emotions out and
You know how it be. They want to listen to rebuttal and not listen to comprehend.
All the time. Right? Many people do that. They just listen to speak, to answer, to prove you wrong. They're not listening to understand anything you're saying. And it's because they're in their emotions. Right? So it says, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. You cannot do these things when you're being emotional. So now imagine you're in Jacob's trouble and something happens, a bomb goes off down the street, and you've never learned how to control your emotions. So your first reaction is just to panic.
Oh my goodness.
And imagine how many people that's gonna happen to.
Bro, imagine being around that and having to control your spirit. You know
And
what I'm saying? You have to be like, oh my gosh, this nigga finna make me mad. Like,
and that's why it is so important right now, before all these things happen, to get set apart. Because that's exactly how everybody that's not in the truth, that doesn't have faith, that isn't putting in works to get right with the Most High and to prepare in all the many different ways, in this one specifically, in learning how to rule their spirit, not move off emotions, move off of wisdom. Imagine how it's going to be around those types of people.
it's gonna be so irritating.
And then, like it says in Sirach, a man is like his neighbor. That type of spirit, you may be cool and calm at first, but then after a while of them just, oh my God, what are we gonna do? I don't know what we're gonna do. Wait, we don't even have food. We don't have water. We don't, man, what are we gonna do? We don't have a gun. We don't, man, the car doesn't have no gas. Look, the electricity went out.
Shit gonna be like in Howard Shot, man. Oh, you have a little faith. You have little faith, man. Where's your faith at?
I'm gonna be like, look, I'm gonna take my chances out there. Deuces.
Yeah, deuces.
But you know what? But I don't have to worry about that right now. I'm saying if I was in that position,
absolutely, right? You ain't finna drag me down.
Con. But the point being, if they're acting in that way, in that manner, right now they can't even control their emotions. Imagine when all this other stuff, when all hell breaks loose, how much worse it's going to be for them. And if you're with them, right, like it says, though hand join in hand, the wicked will not be unpunished. You're going to be in the midst of all these punishments.
Man, ain't going to be no remedy neither.
Right. So James 1:20, it says, for the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of Yahweh. If you want to get Proverbs 14:29. Proverbs 14:29. So the wrath of men cannot work the righteousness of Yahweh. And it's crazy because there's a lot of so-called teachers amongst Israel that man cannot control their wrath. They can't control their anger.
True.
And like it says, anger rests in the bosom of a fool. It says that in Ecclesiastes, the 7th chapter. So what does that really say about some of these so-called self-proclaimed wise teachers or people that many men and women think are wise?
Mm-hmm.
Right? We have to go off of what the scripture says, not what all these people think. But go ahead.
This is Proverbs chapter 14, verse 29. He that is slow to wrath is of great understanding, but he that is hasty of spirit exalted folly.
He that is slow to wrath is of great understanding, because wrath is the fire, is like a fire unto men, right? Like I said, basically it's gonna burn and burn and burn. Mm-hmm. So whether it be anger, whether it be sadness, whether it be pridefulness, whether it be laziness, all of these different spirits or emotions, as we're talking about here, when you're slow to these things, you're a man or woman of great understanding, right? And that's why the sister said she only knew one, right? One person who can rule their spirit, right? I may know just a few as well.
I can't count on more than one hand.
Exactly, right? If you can count on more than one hand, then you're blessed to know people in the truth. Let's put it that way.
Nah, for real.
So he that is slow to wrath is of great understanding, but he that is hasty of spirit, when you're hasty in your spirit to just give yourself over to emotions, when you're hasty to just get depressed or get angry or get sad or any of these things, it says you're exalting folly. You're putting folly or foolishness up high because you're allowing it to control you. Right? It's like when you put something up on a pedestal, it's because it has some type of control over you. It's an idol to you. So when it says, he that is hasty of spirit, when you're hasty to be emotional, you're exalting that spirit and that emotion. And that's why it's over you and it has power over you as well. Go ahead and go to chapter 19 and verse 11.
19:11, like the gun. This is Proverbs 19, verse 11. The discretion of a man deferreth his anger, and it is his glory to pass over a transgression.
So the discretion of a man defers his anger, and it is his glory to pass over a transgression. So I'm going to work this one backwards. It says, it is his glory to pass over a transgression. When you know how to defer your anger, it is going to help you pass a transgression. You're not going to fall into sin. Because like it said in Ephesians, that not to be angry, or be ye angry and sin not. Because when you get angry, it leads you to do what? It leads you into sin many times. Right? So the discretion of a man defers his anger. When you're able to control your anger or your temper, then it is going to help you pass over a sin that you're not going to fall into, because you're able to rule your spirit. You're able to be stronger than 10 mighty men in the city. Right? If you want to go to Ecclesiastes 7 and 8. So this is what we have to learn how to do. We have to learn how to defer our anger. And many times, like I said before, you can deal with anger or certain emotions in different ways. For me, when I first came into the truth, the way for me was working out. It was going to the gym and either hitting the bags, punching, kicking, kneeing, elbowing the bags, or sparring, or rolling, doing jujitsu, anything that you can do, right? But different people have different ways. You could play an instrument, read the scriptures, which obviously that's going to be one too, right? But what I found, for me at least personally, was in that moment of emotion, instead of just letting it out through your mouth or through your actions, doing something you're going to regret, you got to channel it into something else physically. Right? It could be running. I don't personally like running long distance, but maybe doing sprints, running a mile, whatever, or doing something physical, working out, going outside, doing a garden, whatever you need to do in order to not allow those emotions to get rule or control over you. Right? Doing something to stay busy, because like it says in Sirach as well, idleness teacheth much evil. When you're just idle and sitting around and you're just thinking of all these emotions you're feeling and all these types of things, that is not going to be good for you.
That's a real thing too, man. Like, even I'm put like this. Just because you idle don't mean you lazy. But if you do sit still for too long, like, yeah, them thoughts gonna start catching up with you, and you're gonna start having all type of stuff. Just a whole bunch of stuff trying to throw you off. You know what I'm saying? A whole bunch of stuff. I can speak from personal experience.
Because being idle is not moving forward, not moving backwards. You're in neutral, right? You're not doing anything to progress yourself spiritually. So you're just there, basically, again, with your walls open. You're just sitting around with your walls open, and any type of spirit can come and try to get on you.
Yep, and they will.
Yep, So go ahead, verse 8.
This is Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 8. Better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit.
So better is the end of a thing than the beginning. Just like when you start going through emotion, right? Nobody likes that feeling when that emotion first hits you. But the end of that emotion, when you learn how to rule your spirit, right? The end of it is far better than the beginning. When you're like, okay, I feel better now,
So it is.
right? But that takes patience. It says, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. When you give into your emotions, especially into anger, like the brother, let me see, Bless Santana said, my pride, which leads to anger, right? This is the perfect verse for that. Better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof. And the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. When you give into that emotion, it leads to pride, and pride is the beginning of all sin, right? But if you learn how to be patient in spirit, and you learn how to channel those emotions, and you learn how to, okay, you know what? I understand this is how I'm feeling. This situation happened. Because of that, it triggered this emotion. Now I'm feeling like this. But the scriptures say I'm supposed to deal with it in this manner. You know what? I'm still not feeling good right now. You know what? Let me get a workout in. Let me go for a run. Let me go hit the bag.
Shit, even go for a walk.
Let me go for a walk in nature. Whatever the case, we're all going to have different things that help us out, right? Some people, it's listening to calming music, instrumentals, right? Whatever the case may be, that's going to help you get out of your emotions, right? Some people could just be meditating where you just don't think of nothing. You're just concentrating on your breathing.
Yep, just sit there, close your eyes.
Right? And you just breathe and you not try not to think of nothing, right? Be still and know that I'm Yahweh.
Exactly.
Right? Sometimes that's the case. Sometimes it's just getting in the scriptures and doing sometimes that would help for me too, just doing a category. Okay, I'm gonna look at find all the verses on this specific topic, right? But it says the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. Go ahead.
Be not hasty in thy spirit to be angry, for anger resteth in the bosom of fools.
So don't be hasty in your spirit to be angry. When you're being hasty to be angry, it's like, okay, this happened, this person said this, boom, I'm angry. Not only am I feeling that emotion, but I'm going to give into it, and I'm going to let it come out through my tongue, through my actions, right? Like I've even seen so-called teachers. Oh, he said this. Boom. My reaction is just, I'm not even going to say nothing. I'm just going to shove him as hard as I can. Right? I'm gonna slap this dude as hard as I can. That is so feminine.
Very.
Very feminine. Right? And this is why we have to put off those mortal, that's what the scriptures call the weak nature. If you want to go to that in second.
That's a very weak thing to do.
Khan, let's go to 2nd Ezra 14. 14, we can start on 13.
Khan.
Right, and this is talking pertaining to Jacob's trouble as well.
It says 2nd Ezra chapter 14, verse 13. Now therefore set thine house in order, and reprove thy people, comfort such of them as be in trouble, and now renounce corruption.
So you got to get your house in order. If you're a man of the Most High, that's getting your children, your wife in order, yourself in order. If you're just a single person, getting yourself in order, right? Keep going.
Let go from thee mortal thoughts. Cast away the burdens of man. Put off now the weak nature.
So you got to let go of mortal thoughts. Mortal being that it can die, right? Mortal being something that is not pertaining to the kingdom, something that's not going to benefit your salvation in one way or another, right? Being emotional is not going to benefit your salvation. Being emotional is going to hinder your salvation.
Yep.
So you have to learn how to cast away that burden, because it is a burden. Being angry all the time is something you got to carry. That's a heavy burden. Being sad or depressed all the time, which actually we'll get into that right now too, is a heavy burden.
It takes more energy to be sad, angry, and depressed than it is to be happy and at peace.
Calm, way more energy, and that's why you feel so drained all the time. You just I just want to lay down. I just want to sleep.
Yeah.
I don't want to do nothing.
Yeah, burnt all your energy up.
You're just literally feeding all that energy to whatever evil spirit is eating it up. Right? So read it one more time.
Let go from the mortal thoughts. Cast away the burdens of man. Put off now the weak nature.
So it says, let go from mortal thoughts. A lot of people, they get emotional when they start thinking about a specific topic, a specific uh thing that happened to them in the past, right? A specific whatever. It says you have to put off, or Salaki, you have to let go from those types of thoughts. You got to let it go. And that's why Yahweh Shai said in Luke 9 and is it 62 or 63? I know it's the last verse. 62. He says, any man working towards the kingdom and looking back is not fit for the kingdom. Because you have to learn how to let go of these types of thoughts that are weighing you down. It says, cast away the burdens of man. If you're on an island, right, and let's say you have all these thoughts that weigh you down, and it says cast them away, and you put them in a bottle and you cast it away, you're gonna get that bottle back?
No.
You're never gonna see that bottle again.
So
right? That's how you have what you have to learn to do when it comes to these emotions and these thoughts that bring emotions. It says, put off now the weak nature. That's weak. And the Most High gives you a spirit of power, of strength. So moving off your emotions and having all these types of thoughts that bring you into your emotions are not from the Most High, and they're not of strength. They're weak. Go ahead.
and set aside the thoughts that are most heavy unto thee, and haste thee to flee from these times.
So set aside the thoughts that are weighing you down. Right? Everybody has thoughts that when they start thinking about something or someone or a certain situation or whatever the case may be, it's going to start weighing them down. And now you just, man, you're not as happy.
Yep.
And now you're not as peaceful. And now, you know what? Let me just sit down. You know, I'm going to lay down. Now I'm going to take a nap. You know what? I was going to do this today, but nah, I'm not going to do nothing today. Maybe tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and then, nah, you know, you got to set aside those thoughts that are most heavy to you and haste thee to flee from these times. Because the times we're coming into, it says you got to make haste to flee from them. You got to be prudent to see all these things that are going to come. And as we're going to see in part 2, part 3, however many parts the Most High puts on my spirit to do, this is why I went over this one first. I was going to talk about famine, about preparing, all these other things. But what good is it going to do you if you're, I don't know, you got a whole bunch of food saved, or you're growing food, you have a well with water, you have a somewhere you can go as soon as the shit hits the fan, if which I don't personally think that's that good of an idea, but whatever the case may be, right? Let's say you have physical preparations lined up. If you can't control your emotions, as soon as all hell breaks loose, you're not going to be able to do it anyways.
Exactly.
Right? So this is why this is a more important, this is why it's a part 1. But go ahead.
For yet greater evils than those which thou hast seen happen shall be done hereafter.
So all the evil things we've been seeing, or you've seen in your whole life, all the evil you've been hearing about that's being perpetuated right now all across the earth. And man, there's a lot of wickedness going on right now.
More than that.
Especially in Babylon. Right? There's some things I would say, but it'll probably end up getting the video taken down. Bunch of y'all I'm sure y'all seen enough headlines and all this type of stuff.
Yeah, I know what month we're in.
Y'all know what month we're in, right? We're in the month of the demon.
Yeah.
And all this type of wickedness is happening. But this says you have to set aside the thoughts that are heaviest to you, right? You have to put off the weak nature. You got to put off the emotional nature to move in wisdom. Why though? To haste to flee from these times. Right? It's not hasty to just make certain decisions, but it is very, very, or Salaki, it's not productive to make hasty decisions, right? But it is very productive to be hasty to flee from these times, meaning to get prepared or prepare yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. It is very, very prudent, expedient, profitable to you to be hasty to get ready for all the things that are going to happen. Because if not, you're going to find yourself shit out of luck.
That's the worst position to be in. I say that.
You're going to find yourself trying to row up creek without a paddle. Right? Trying to that's good enough.
Nah,
I'm not even gonna keep going.
that's it.
You're in the times that are coming, and it's coming very soon. I heard from a dude yesterday that let's just say he's well connected with people, the powers that be, when it comes to like financial and stuff like that, right? He said, and I'm not saying he's 100% correct, but I would take his word on this because he knows certain people. He said by winter time, what we're seeing with gas right now is going to be nothing.
Yep.
What we're seeing with food right now, people are going to wish there was this much food at this price,
Yep.
even though it's crazy. Every time I go to the store, I drop at least $100, and I'm not even getting that much stuff.
$100 used to fill up
the whole basket, right?
The whole basket.
Now it's like maybe 3 or 4 bags.
Man, that little part where you can put your kid to sit down there is filling up that little part.
Right. So by winter time, he's saying we're gonna wish that the prices were where they're at right now, and we're gonna wish that there's this much food at this price, and we're gonna wish that gas was at this price right now. Mm-hmm. Right, which is why, again, you want to read the last 2 verses out, Bokshah?
And set aside the thoughts that are most heavy unto thee, and haste thee to flee from these times. For yet greater evils than that which thou hast seen happen shall be done hereafter.
So hereafter, after this live, if you're catching it right now live or later on, what we're seeing right now is nothing compared to what's coming. So if you, again, going back to the very beginning, if you want to get Sirach 30, we're going to go 21. We'll finish with that. Sirach 30, we're going to go 21 through 25. But like I said in the beginning, right, wisdom and knowledge are going to be the only thing that keep you stable in these times to come. Okay? To brothers, first and foremost, who I'm speaking to. Wisdom and knowledge, the word, and knowing how to move according to the word, knowing how to be wise in the decisions that you're making according to the word, that's the only way you're going to keep yourself safe and have a chance of making it through Jacob's trouble. That's the only way you're going to keep your family safe and allow them to have a chance of making it through Jacob's trouble. Whether it be your wives, whether it be your children, whatever the case may be, you have to move in wisdom in order to even have a chance at that. Because like Jeremiah said, he said, why does he see all these men with their hands on their loins like they're about to give birth? Right? Why is everyone's faces turned to paleness?
They're going to pass out, vomit, shit on themselves, pee on themselves.
Hey, man, some people are going to die. It's going to be like how Job said in Leviathan, when people see Leviathan,
heart is going to fail.
Right? They're just going to die from the sight of him. That's how a lot of people are going to be in Jacob's trouble.
I don't even want to see how that. I'm going to be real.
Same here. And that's how it's going to be when you're just purely moving off emotion. No faith, no wisdom, no understanding.
It's going to be like, oh my gosh, Godzilla is real. Literally I'm telling you, but people going, all that stuff we seen in movies, man, where y'all think Godzilla came from? That's probably Leviathan, being real.
The brother, hey, Shabbat Shalom, Barziyah Judah. He said he always catches it at the end. It's all good. It's all good. I pray all is well with you and your household too. Yahweh Shem Yahushua Barakatah.
This is Wisdom of Sirach, the 30th chapter, verse 21 through 25. Give not over thy mind to heaviness.
So when your mind is completely in heaviness, in depression, in sadness, all of these things, you have to understand that you're giving your mind over to that. Because the Most High gives us a spirit of power. So you have a choice, which is why the Most High said, or which is why in Joshua it says, choose ye this day, right? It says, give not over thy mind to heaviness. You have a choice. Am I going to move in the spirit, or am I going to give my mind over to my emotions? Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
And afflict not thyself in thine own counsel.
And this is what many people do. They afflict themselves with their own counsel. And they just go through, in their head, they're just going through all these things that are causing emotions. Well, what if I do this? And then no. And I tried to do this and it didn't work. And then in the past, this happened. and well, I said this, and then they said that, and then it made me feel like this. When in reality, the only counsel you should be striving to have in your heart and in your life is what? It's the counsel of the Most High.
That's it.
That's it, right? That's why he says in Proverbs, I believe it's 3 and in 4, that you have to write them upon the table. Write these words upon the table of your heart. The more you are giving yourself over to your own counsel, the more you're going to lead yourself astray.
It even says in the Wisdom of Solomon, set your affection upon his word.
And most people's affections are upon their own counsel.
Exactly.
Instead of, you could know somebody in the truth, but you don't want to go to them because you know what they're going to say. They're going to give you, thus saith the Most High.
Yeah.
They're going to say, they're going to give you verse after verse after verse, and you don't want to hear that.
You don't want that.
You don't want to hear that because looking in the mirror is a hard thing to do.
Yeah, can't take it.
Right? Go ahead.
The gladness of the heart is the life of man, and the joyfulness of a man prolongeth his days.
The joyfulness of a man prolongs his days. The gladness of the heart is the life of man. If you don't have no gladness or no joy in your life, what's the point of your life? And that's why you're supposed to be happy or content to serve the Most High. That's why it says that godliness with contentment is great gain. It's not enough for you to be in the truth and be miserable all the time. Right? I was talking to a couple, a brother and then a sister about that, right? And basically saying the same thing, even though I'm pretty sure they don't even know each other. Basically saying the same thing, like, man, people come in the truth and they just seem miserable their whole lives. It seems like they're never happy. They're always angry, always upset. That's not how you're supposed to be. Solomon said the gladness of the heart is the life of men. Right? Keep going.
Love thine own soul and comfort thy heart. Remove sorrow far from thee.
You have to learn how to love your own soul. If you love your own soul, you're not going to go off your own counsel. You're going to go off the Most High's counsel. If you comfort your heart, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to find comfort in the scriptures, like it says in Psalms. And if you love your own soul and comfort your heart, you're going to remove sorrow far from you. Go ahead.
For sorrow hath killed many, and there is no profit therein.
There's no profit in sorrow, right? Go ahead.
Envy and wrath shorten the life, and carefulness bringeth age before the time.
Being envious, being wrathful, angry, which again are emotions, that is going to shorten your life. And carefulness, when it says carefulness here, it's talking about worrying, right? When you look in the Hebrew, those two words are basically synonymous. When you're worried all the time, it's going to bring age before your time. That's why I got people I went to high school with, and they're covered in white hair.
Man.
Right? And I'm like, damn, I don't have, that makes me feel good. I ain't got no white hairs right now. Right?
It was a point in time where I started to get probably 1 or 2 of them, but it changed real quick.
So you have to choose to comfort yourself, to remove sorrow from you. You have to choose to not give your mind to affliction, right? Choose not to be emotional. Choose wisdom. Go ahead.
A cheerful and good heart will have a care of his meat and diet.
A cheerful and good heart will have care of his meat and diet, right? And I'm going to finish with that because your meat and your diet, like I've said many times before, many other people have spoke on this for years and years, is not just what you eat, right? It's what you see. It's what you allow into your body through your eyes. It's what you listen to. It's what you watch on TV. It's the brothers that you, so-called brothers that you're watching, breaking down lessons, and they're doing it in a spirit of anger and pride and jealousy and envy and wrath and all these things. And wickedness and not humility, right? These are things that you're eating up, and it's whether you realize it or not, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, you're seeing people be emotional and you start being emotional as well. And in the times to come, right, in Jacob's trouble, which is coming very soon, if you want to make it through Jacob's trouble, you're going to have to learn how to control your emotions and move off of wisdom by any means necessary, right? Hey, shalom, good lesson, wisdom, and knowledge is very key. Isaiah 33:6. Wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times and strength of thy salvation. The fear of Yahweh is his treasure.
Yes, it is.
Khan, you wanna have strength that leads to salvation. It has to be moving through wisdom and not through emotions. Jana Garcia, is this live or is this over? It's live and it's about to be over. So all praise to the Most High Yahweh, Ba'ashem HaMashiach Yahweh Shai. Shabbat Shalom to everyone observing today. I hope y'all have a good one. We'll catch you on the next live. Shalom.